Good morning. Good morning and welcome. It's good to see you folks. We will give folks a minute to join. I don't know if Clarence is on, but I'm sure he is celebrating the Yankees win. So we're going to need everybody in Red Sox Nation to be sending good vibes tonight. Leslie Baker, what's going on?
Always something, but we need to get those Red Sox in.
Right, government shutdown. To that point, the government, this is day two of the government shutdown. Danielle Ewan sent resources, which I will add to the 9:30 call follow-up folder. And Neri and I were talking about it yesterday. Danielle is scheduled to come on Monday. So we're excited that she will be here on the 9:30 call on Monday. And then next week for the call, we are going to hear from Danielle on Monday. We're going to hear from the folks from Kale, Valora Washington, Corey Bardage, and then also Melinda Weber will join to hear more about kind of the Good Jobs Challenge. We're going to have Victoria Bergeron on from Mass Taxpayers on Wednesday, and then Marissa Howard Karp will be on Thursday. So stay tuned for the email update, which we'll send tomorrow. But today we're excited to have Donna Volpitta, who is going to share more about the work that she's doing, and she has slides. So, Donna, the first question that we ask all 9:30 callers is for you to tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be in your current role, and then we're excited to hear your update.
Awesome. And actually, I'm going to share the slides because that's actually how I start. So if
Great.
that's okay, I will start with the slides. We're going to be talking about moving upstream in terms of mental health. Um, and I know that at preschool, a lot of people aren't really necessarily weren't having that conversation 15 years ago, but I was. And so I started on this journey talking about the need to teach people mental health and teach brain science to kids as young and 3 and 4 years old. And I've been talking about that for about 15 years when my kids were really young. And so I'll show you a picture of when I started this and then where they are now. So it's been a long journey. And what I realized was I became really interested in proactively building resilience and fostering mental health. I was an educator by trade, had spent many years teaching, mostly special ed, and realized that we had significant mental health genetics in my family with mental illness, and that my kids had gone through some pretty significant challenges when they were young. And I wanted to understand how to proactively build resilience and foster mental health. That led me to brain science. And I realized there was a whole lot of neuroscience that would be really useful for people to understand, but neuroscientists weren't making it easy. So I decided to translate neuroscience in a way that even 3 and 4 year olds could understand. So that was my journey, what got me started. Um, and it's been amazing. I'm co-author of 14 books with Pathways to Empower, workbooks from kindergarten all the way up through college that are published by Kendall Hunt. I'm the co-founder of the Mental Health Literacy Collaborative because we realized that even though 36 states require mental health education K through 12, it wasn't happening. So we need sort of the onboarding to give teachers the knowledge and confidence they need to understand how to integrate mental health literacy. And then my really exciting thing that I want to share today is that we just launched a YouTube channel for preschoolers and their caregivers to teach the brain science of resilience and healthy choices through characters, puppetry, music, and animation. So we're going to share about that today. And I am oops, sorry about that. Wrong way. I'm the parent of 4 adolescents now. This is what they looked like when I started this journey. They are now a whole lot older than that, but I like to start with that picture because it kind of shows how long ago I started talking about this. These were the 4 when I started. Um, and because of them, I started this resilient mindset model. This is the translation of neuroscience. Please feel free to interrupt anytime if anybody wants to ask questions. I'm always so excited to talk about this. You're going to see that the characters are a little bit different in the preschooler. They look different because we've moved into animation. And so we have an animator who's awesome to bring these characters to life. But I just wanted to give an overview of the model first because it's really exciting to understand neuroscience in 5 minutes. And really, what I set out to do was explain the neuroscience of the decisions that we make so we could understand how to use challenges to build resilience. So there are 3 parts to the model. The first is the 4 S's of resilience that you can see on the dragonfly's wings. We say that our resilience is our response to any challenge, good, bad, big, or small. And that resilience is guided by the way we think about these 4 S's. Self, all the things I think about myself. Situation, how can I break that challenge down into doable parts? Supports, who and what do I go to for help? And strategies, what are the actions I take? What are the things I do? The interesting part is the reality isn't as important as the brain pathways that we've created around them, the way that we think about them. So I could have 50 supports to go to, but if I don't know I have those supports and I don't know how to access them, they don't really matter. So the good news about that is we can use these 4 S's as a framework to scaffold any challenge, good, bad, big, or small. And when we do that, we can help our kids, our students, ourselves to begin to use challenges to proactively build resilience. The second part of the model is the 4 characters of the brain, and they help explain the way our brains are wired, the way we evolved to respond to challenges. So we think of decisions that we make as good versus bad, but our brains don't think in good, bad. Our brains think in long-term versus short-term. I always think about Fred Flintstone with the angel and the devil over his shoulder. It's not an angel and a devil, it's an ant and a grasshopper. So the ant is in charge of our long-term decisions, things we don't really feel like doing right now, but we do them because they'll benefit us later on. The ant is in charge of putting money in the bank, going to the doctor, eating healthy, all those things that we don't really feel like doing, but we do them because they'll benefit us later. The ant also holds the tools of a healthy brain. When we have those tools in place, we're better able to make those long-term decisions if they'll benefit us, and we're better able to foster our mental health. So as early as 3 and 4, we can begin to teach our students about the tools of a healthy brain and how they can keep those in place. The grasshopper represents our limbic system, the emotional part of the brain. The grasshopper is in charge of the here and now, doesn't really care if we put money in the bank, study for the test, or finish that project, kind of wants to eat junk food and watch Netflix. So it's always on the lookout for short-term rewards. But when we're in danger, the grasshopper is also there to save us. It puts us into fight, flight, or freeze. The ant could never get there on time. So when we're in danger, grasshopper goes into fight, flight, or freeze and gets us out of the way. Grasshopper, the limbic system is also where we get a lot of neurochemicals. We say that neurochemicals are like text messages that drive our behavior. It tells our brain what to do. When we work really hard towards a goal, when we struggle, when we fail and then we start again and we keep going, and we've all seen this in kids where they're really struggling and frustrated and then they finally get it and they get that yes feeling. That's a big bunch of neurochemicals like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, things that are really important for the brain. And they're messages to the brain that say, wow, that was really worth the effort. You should do that again. And so we always say that this last visual represents the fact that self-esteem isn't a gift we can give our kids. It's a neurochemical response we rob them of if we don't let them struggle towards success. I see Donna cheering on that. I love that. Thank you for that response. It is amazing when I tell that to parents and they're like, oh my gosh, because it is really scary when we realize that if they don't get those long-term rewards, if they don't get that message that, wow, that struggle was worth it, we can actually prime the brain for addiction because we're always looking for those short-term dopamine bursts instead of that long-term serotonin. The glowworm represents our amygdala. The main job of the brain is survival. So we have a part of the brain that is always on the lookout for threat. When we see a threat to survival, the glowworm's job is to go red alert, switch control of the brain from the ant to the grasshopper, put us into fight, flight, or freeze, and get us out of the way of danger, which is really important because we survive. The last part of the model is REACTS, which is an acronym for the social threats and rewards to the brain. What a lot of people don't realize is that our brains evolved during tribal times when getting left out of the tribe was just as dangerous as being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So our brains respond the same way to social threat or social pain as it does to physical threat or physical pain. So just like that car coming at us made our glowworm go red alert, switch control of the brain to the grasshopper for fight, flight, or freeze. If we have a threat to respect, equity, alliances, control, territory, or similarity, our glowworm also goes red alert and switches control to the grasshopper for fight, flight, or freeze. And that's a lot of what we see in our classrooms is those social threats. The dragonfly's job is to know when to override that response and say, no, we've got this. We don't need to go into fight, flight, or freeze because we have these 4 S's in place. We have an action. We say that violence, anxiety, and depression roughly translate to fight, flight, or freeze. And the opposite is action, is the opposite is knowing what we can do, having control over the situation, having an action that we can take. So that is the resilient mindset model. Before I introduce Danny, does anybody have any questions or comments about the model itself?
There's a lot of appreciation. Well, while you're talking about like fight or flight, I put the government shutdown resources in the chat. So I think that's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance. Titus says this is brilliant. Love the four S's, and I love these characters. Luz says I love the YOLO. My government shutdown resources. Donna Danette said amazing details. Saving all the time is saving all the time is hurting the kid development. Ashley says, I love this, so accessible, it makes so much sense.
Thank you so much. I think that it's so interesting that we can so easily teach neuroscience. Everybody's so intimidated by neuroscience, and we can make it really simple. Um, And so my dream for 15 years has been to turn this into a cartoon and puppet show with music. And so that dream just came true. Just before I move on to that, we have been writing for the past, I met my co-author in 2019. And by then I had been sort of 8, well, 9 years going around telling people I really, this was really important information. And he said to me, what's your product? And I said, me. He said, that's not scalable. I said, no, no, it's not. So he and I started writing curriculum and creating content. So we have now published kindergarten through college through Kendall Hunt. We have workbooks for kids that teach the brain science, teach through this model. So we've been working on that for years. That's all set now. So, and we also have a parent and educator online course. So we have one for parents and caregivers that's 1 hour, and we have one for educators as well that are online. So then we decided that it was time to go even more upstream and teach preschool. And in the past 2 months, we have launched this YouTube channel called Danny Dragonfly. We hired animators, 2 young animators who are amazing, and they have started drawing the content. And we are focused on developing appropriate content that promotes resilience, brain health, and decision making through music, puppetry, and animation, and different types of videos that we're going to be releasing. So all of the characters that you just learned about are now animated and brought to life through a show called Danny Dragonfly. The characters, you met them through the mindset model, but Danny is really the voice of the caregivers and can really model for the parents and caregivers that that model of scaffolding. So a lot of the songs that we're writing with Danny are talking about how she has to stay off to the side, how she helps scaffolding words. We have a song that's Use Your Words, and it teaches kids how to say, I'm sorry, how to say, I'm not ready to say I'm sorry yet, how to say, may I have a turn, please, how to say, I'm not ready to give you a turn, I'll give you a turn when I'm finished. So really scaffolding the words, scaffolding how to stand to the side and scaffold for our kids. So she's really that caregiver voice. Glow, it represents that part of the brain that gets looking out for threat. Gordy is the fun one, the part of the brain that's looking out for the short-term rewards and very protective. And Tony is that part of the brain that is represents that long-term decisions. And Tony has his tools. We have a song that Tony has his tools in place to the ants go marching one by one. So they really do represent those parts of the brain, and each of the characters is going to be very intentional in that way. But the content on the YouTube channel is for children. It's geared towards 2 to 7 year olds, and it's really focused in on the way that they learn best. There are activities, how to draw, how to there's one up right now, how to draw an ant. There's sing-alongs. There's how puppet skits that will have that, and then we'll have some original animations that will be available. So the channel right now is very focused towards entertainment for kids. They're not, we're not teaching them necessarily, but we'll also have a lot of oh, sorry, before I move on to that, it's musical format. All of the songs are original. A lot of the songs are songs that that are open source that we change the words to so that it teaches kids about their brain. We will also have some lessons and strategies and really focused. Our music director is a preschool music teacher who is just phenomenal. She's trained in music together. She's very, very intentional, and she and I work on writing all of the songs together. Um, and so we have an album of music that's released. We're working on recording the second album, so you can stream them on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Music. And then we're going to have an educational blog for caregivers and parents. I believe we'll have 6 blogs up this week where we'll talk about the science behind this and how to use these in an appropriate way. We'll have activity books and educator toolkits, and we'll have online learning platforms, and we'll also be probably on the YouTube channel having videos of Kathy, our music director, modeling music lessons for parents and educators. So how to use the puppets, how to use the songs in order to teach appropriate lessons. And those are the kids now. That's how how long it has been. They are now all young adults and just became an empty nester 3 weeks ago. So we're really excited to share this. Please feel free to reach out to us. And I'm happy to share a flyer with the YouTube channel QR code and with information about that if anybody is interested.
Thanks so much. I added the links in chat. So the YouTube channel, kind of what you shared for the description. Donna Danette wonders, have you been able to connect with pediatricians as a way to support access to this model?
Actually, we're going to. That is one of our goals is to get this to pediatricians so that they can let their clients know. It's been a whirlwind rush to get some of this stuff out there in the last, but yes, that is our intention. And if anybody has any contacts that they'd like us to reach out to, happy to do so.
And then can you talk a little bit about like how did you like beta test all this? Like, because you're developing all these different pieces. So tell us a little bit about that process.
So we've done a ton of research. And then right now, Kathy, our music director, is a preschool music teacher and she is beta testing it. And Jason's wife is a first grade teacher, so she's beta testing it. Her students are every day asking for more videos.
That's
And
great.
he lives at a school. And so all of the teachers at the school are working with the videos. And so now just getting it out and trying to get feedback. We literally launched the channel, I think, 2 weeks ago and got most
Oh,
of the
wow.
music up last week. So this is brand new.
And then can you tell us a little bit about kind of the reactions and kind of what would you offer to parents as they are, thinking about how to get the biggest bang for their buck? We know parents of young children are so busy. I think sometimes with screen time, sometimes people wonder about that. So you talk a little bit about how you talk about that with families?
One of the things that I would say is one of the reasons that we decided we had to do this is so much of the content out there is not designed in a way that is beneficial to kids and kids' brains. And so, one of the things that we really commit to, and the second blog is about our commitment to appropriate content. So, all of the content will be very specifically developmentally appropriate. It will all be created by human experts in their field. So, the animators are very well aware. And there so much is AI generated right now. And
Right.
we commit to not doing any of that, and really using only human experts in the field.
And let me see, there's some in chats. This model does make more sense and is so easy to follow. Kim Davenport says, congratulations. This is a great framework to simplify the science so accessible. And could we get the emails and chat? Yes, you answered that question right away. Perfect. Thank you. And then have you worked with foster caregivers? Has there been research of the outcome for the model for children?
We have not worked with foster caregivers yet. We actually have been really focused on just writing the content, but we are doing some research right now on outcomes of the model. We actually did a study last year in all of Staten Island sixth graders did the workbook for sixth graders. We have not done any research as of yet with the early childhood stuff because we literally just got it out. And I would love any feedback that anybody has, any suggestions. We would love to, if people are incorporating it, we're talking to the teachers that we know that are incorporating it, but we have not done any studies as of yet.
And then I think any advice that you would have just about kind of the approach of I firmly believe that children are competent and capable and how we talk about things with them and about the struggle. How do you kind of what other language? I mean, I think the resources that you have are incredible, but how do we help continuing to support parents to understand about children's struggle and not to rob them of those experiences?
One of the things is that our brains are also wired to protect them. Right? So it's a matter of understanding. And when we have that understanding, it's easier to say, okay, yeah, this hurts me to not help you. It's
Right,
hard. And recognizing to them that, yeah, this is hard because your brain is going to be wired to want to go in and protect them. Territory, as parents, is a significant social threat, but understanding how can you scaffold and giving them strategies for how to scaffold for kids rather than doing it for them. So using those four S's, instead of telling kids what to do, we can say, hey, is your strategy working? Do you have another strategy? Is there a support you can use? At least then we're giving the parents actions that they can take, because right
right,
now they feel like they can either do it for them or they
or
can let
not.
them struggle. It's the
Yeah.
how do we scaffold? And
Those are
always,
good questions for all of us in our life right now. Do we have another strategy?
and
Yeah, I
always
think that's
looking
really important.
for how do we get them to be able to do it themselves? Like that's always the goal.
Right. But you're right. I think sometimes it's framed as an either or, which it's not. There's a lot of in between. Donna Dennett shared, I asked parents to think through unintended consequences. What might the unintended consequences be of telling your child you will pick them up early if they feel sad? Right.
I also think that parents are getting a lot of messaging that they have to, they have to monitor their kids all the time. I
Yep.
know that there's a push towards having um, monitoring of kids while they're there so that parents know what is happening all the time. And I always say the message that you're giving your kids is that they're not safe unless you're there, that you are
Right.
the only one who can keep them safe. And those unintended messages of over monitoring, and I always point to the consequences of look at the number of kids who are not thriving in college, who are
Right.
failing to thrive because they can't handle that stuff.
Right. Well, we often say the 9:30 call is the inspiration we didn't know we needed. So thank you for ending our week strong. Thank you so much for joining us and for all the work that you've done. All the links are in the chat and your email. Thank you so much for putting it in. So if folks want to connect with Donna, please do. Thank you, Kim Dion. I did look for Clarence Little. I want folks to say, when we come back next week, that I did acknowledge that the Yankees won last night, and Clarence is the number one fan. And then we did have the 9:30 call in Espanol last night. I think everyone knows we're now going to twice a month. So 2 Wednesdays a month, we will have the 9:30 call in Espanol. You saw in the emails this week, we're going to start branding that and sending those emails out individually. So please forward. It's been great to see the 9:30 call in Espanol community grow. So stay tuned for who's joining us in 2 weeks. We will be back here at 9:30 in the morning on Monday. Have a good weekend and send some good socks energy. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks.